Hello and welcome into the IdahoSports.com 2022 State Volleyball Tournament Preview Special. It doesn't matter which podcast you listen to, the North Idaho Prepcast, the Treasure Valley Prepcast, Magic Valley Prepcast, East Idaho Prepcast. We are dropping this state volleyball tournament preview into your podcast feed so you can be ready when the matches start on Friday over in East Idaho. My name is Brandon Baney, and I'm so pleased to be joined by a new addition to the IdahoSports.com team this fall, Lynnsie Togiai-Ah Fook. Lynnsie, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're so excited because your volleyball acumen, your volleyball knowledge is so impressive. Introduce yourself to our audience in case they may not know about you. You've got a long, extensive background with the sport of volleyball.
Yeah. So I went to Century, played for Pauline. So my senior year was actually the first year that Century took state in volleyball, and then it went on to get 5 after that. But after that, I played at Montana State, and I've pretty much been playing volleyball since I was in kindergarten. So I've been around it a lot. And then when I came back here, I've coached at Highland, and then I went to coach at Pokey, and now we help at Rockland, and we coach the club teams. And so we help a lot of places now, but we're from Pocatello. Yes.
Yes, Pocatello and Century High, playing for Pauline Theros, the legendary coach. She's now at Idaho State University as the athletic director. I'm wearing my ISU shirt today, so looks good. And then, like you said, you laid the groundwork for that dynasty run of 5 titles in a row, right?
Yeah, it was, I don't know, it was sort of like a dream, but it was a lot of hard work put into it. I mean, that year we had 8 seniors and 2 juniors on the team, and we all had a scholarship somewhere. So it was really, it was something that we'd been building for a long time, and we got third, second, first. And so it was something, yeah, that we really, really wanted. And a lot of these girls that I've seen this year too, there's a lot of star players out there, but even more so, there's a lot of good teams that I wasn't even aware of until this year when I really started watching every level.
Definitely. And so you have helped out with Century's team this year and Rigby and Rockland. And so Rockland and Century are both competing at states. Just a disclaimer. So as we talk about, the brackets and what's going on, Lynnssie's not going to let that cloud her judgment at all when she's analyzing these brackets. But yeah. But you're a perfect person to bring on because you've seen a lot of these teams, certainly in East Idaho, but also, you followed a lot of the weekend tournaments this year, which it was a little different this year, right, Lynnsie, where the tournament results didn't really count towards the official win-loss record or max preps or anything like that. So it was hard to know sometimes, how teams did because they were like, well, if they don't count, then, we won't report them as much. And so it was kind of interesting this year.
I think because Max Preps doesn't record the tournament records, so I don't know. It sort of does take away from some teams because they can go undefeated in a tournament, but the record won't show that, and it sometimes it does other teams better because then it doesn't show them losing 4 matches. So I mean, it's kind of just a toss up, and I think that's why they did away with it, because it's all in 1 or 2 days, and that it's just a lot of volleyball for that amount of time. And they're like, we're just not going to count it towards the season. But a lot of the smaller teams, I didn't realize they don't even get to go to many tournaments just because they have so many conference teams in their from their tiny schools. They have a lot of teams in their conference.
Yes, a perfect example is Rockland, where it's a 9-team conference, that Rocky Mountain Conference at the 1A D2 level, and everybody played everybody twice. There was a lot of tri matches where North Gem, Clark County, and Showband would get together and they'd all play each other on a Saturday at Showband. So 18 conference matches for everybody in the district, which was just crazy, right?
That's why I'm like, to get all of those in, you couldn't do it without the tri matches. But tri matches basically turn into tournaments because you have your JV, their JV, our JV, and then varsity. So it's a long day that way too. But you got to get them in because they have no other way to do it, I guess, because they're so far spread out. Unlike the other places, they get their their area, like Idaho Falls or even here in Pocatello. But yeah, they're not so lucky.
Right. Yeah, it's been very so when you look at the records, some teams will have like 12 matches and some will have like 20, and it's just the size of the conference really dictated that. So, okay, so you mentioned the tournament atmosphere is crazy, where you're playing so many matches over 2 days. That is what state is. That is what they're preparing for, this 2-day gauntlet where if you lose on Friday right away, you're not out of it yet, but you really have to battle back. And so
You're not,
often,
yeah.
yes, so often I feel like we see a team that gets to the semis and loses like in a gut-wrenching way, and then they can't bring that same level on Saturday and they're out, right?
It's just volleyball is so emotional. It's such a mental game. It's so hard to come back from even a set loss, and you play 3 out of 5, but it's just so emotional. And then even teams that you have an emotional win, you got to turn right back around and win again, and that's tough.
Yeah,
But
go
that's what
ahead.
it is.
Yeah, you have to be not only physically tough but mentally
Very much.
strong as well to overcome. So, well, let's if folks are watching this, we're going to put this up on the IdahoSports.com YouTube channel and Facebook page. I'm going to throw the brackets up on the screen so you can see the brackets. Maybe make your video full size so it's a little easier to see the brackets. If you're listening to this podcast audio only at IdahoSports.com or wherever you download your podcasts, totally fine. We've got all the state brackets on our website, IdahoSports.com as well, so you can follow along there. Let's just start with 5A. This is going to be held at Skyline High School in Idaho Falls. Madison is the number 1 seed overall. The big storyline, Lynnsie, in 5A volleyball is Skyview finally moved down to 4A, which left it wide open,
I
right?
think it's more of a relief for the other teams. Skyview is a big name in the volleyball world, and I do think that they deserve to be. I mean, they dominate no matter which level team they play. They're very consistent, and they have big players going to Oregon, BYU. I mean, those are some great schools for volleyball. So, I mean, watching them play, they're tough. That's why I'm like, it's more of like relief. And Madison looks great too, but even then, they kind of returned almost the same team. Skyview lost one of their big players in Alex Bauer. She went to BYU and left her little sister still, but they played in the championship last year, and Skyview took it, and that's why I'm like, Skyview moving down more so just gave the 5A teams like, oh, thank goodness. But now the 4A teams are like, oh.
Seriously, they're like, oh, that's a bummer.
I
Okay.
know.
um
It's on a different level.
Yeah, they are. They went to a nationally acclaimed tournament in Nebraska earlier this year. We'll get to Skyview when we talk about the 4A bracket, but it's kind of left this void in 5A where we think Madison, based upon how they did last year, and they bring back some really great. Kinley Curbs was an all-state setter. Mariah Wilson is a great defender. Maddie Wilcox, right?
Yes, I'm gonna say Maddie Wilcox has been one of my favorites for a while, I guess, because I've seen her play since she was a freshman, and they had her play up there. And so even to watch just her growth, she's really come into herself, and she's going to College of Idaho, right? I think so. Volleyball.
Yes, which is super exciting. And Madison, of course, has a great coach in Miranda Mestis as well. So so Madison, I think, is kind of the favorite, the 1 seed overall. Eagle has been a team that's been, pretty highly acclaimed this year. They come in as the 5 seed. Thunder Ridge is the 4 seed. Eagle's the 5 seed. I think all of the teams from the Boise area got dinged in the Max Preps rankings this year because the league was like very balanced. There wasn't one dominant team. Everybody kind of beat up on each other. That really played out at districts where there was some crazy upsets, like Rocky Mountain, the 2 seed, was out in 2 matches.
Yeah, I would say they kind of, kind of like the Pac-12 teams do in football. It's kind of like you beat each other so much that now one of us can't pull ahead, one of us can't get in it, and exactly what happened. And it's kind of weird because a lot of people thought that it would be Madison and Eagle in the championship, and it could still be. It could still be, but they're on the same side of the bracket now, so one of them has to lose earlier on. So we'll see.
Yeah, so Madison plays Boise, the 8 seed, and then the 4-5 is Thunder Ridge against Eagle. I thought District 5-6 was really good this year. Obviously, Madison is uber talented. Thunder Ridge got that other bid, but Highland and even Rigby, I thought were both exceptional teams. It was just a really tough district, right?
And I think they always do. And I will say this year was more competitive than it has been in the past, where, they were going 5 sets, Highland, Thunder Ridge, or even Rigby. I mean, they were going 5 sets more often and pulling those tighter games. But yeah, when it came down to it, Madison was still the most consistent. But yes, very tough district there too. But Madison didn't allow anyone to get that win on them, so they could take it. But
so we'll see if Thunder Ridge, by having that tough competition all year, how they fare at state. But tough matchup with the Eagle right away, right?
yeah. I mean, that'll be a good game though. I feel like all of those first matches, really show your mental toughness, right? Because, you got to shake those nerves fast or else you're going on the wrong side. But, I don't know much about Lake City or Post Falls from that side. Haven't seen them play much. So it's kind of one of those good but bad things. It's like a mystery of, you can watch film, but every team plays different when they play you.
Right. Yeah, the North was really fascinating this year, and I do think we're headed towards a Lake City Post Falls collision in that semifinal, where Lake City, the 2 seed, they'll play Hawaii, the 7. Post Falls, the 3 seed, they'll play Timberline, the 6. Coeur d'Alene was actually so Post Falls was kind of the preseason favorite, and then it was Coeur d'Alene High that actually started really hot. They won.
Theirs was close. Theirs was always close too. They beat each other like all the time.
Yes, Coeur d'Alene started off like 12-0, 13-0, and then they really fizzled. They ran into some injuries and kind of fizzled out. Lake City got the best of Post Falls in the regular season, but then at districts when it counted, well, and I guess that's the other thing. I guess it didn't really count that much. I mean, Lake City had to win a play-in match, but despite Post Falls winning the district, they're still seated below Lake City because the Max Preps rankings only account for the regular season, right?
Yes, that is correct. They don't even account for districts. I mean, I guess at the end of the day, you still get your bid. So you earn your bid, right? If you win your district, you earn your bid. But then the rankings really kind of throw people off because, that I don't know if they necessarily earn that or not. I don't know.
Yes, I will say Post Falls, they're led by Kylie Monday. She was a kill machine this year. She's really the focal point of Post Falls offensively. In Lake City, it's more of a collaborative effort. But
okay. More of ball control and not a huge hitter, but yeah.
Yes, definitely. And so it's going to be fascinating if those two do meet up. Is there Oh, go ahead.
I was just saying they're going to face again.
Yes.
But
right. They're going to duke it out again. Okay.
Yeah.
Is there a dark horse team that you're looking at in this bracket that maybe isn't on anyone's radar that you think possibly could get on a run?
So, I mean, it's always, the underdogs, the ones that are rated lower that I don't know much about Boise or Owyhee. So I'm like, it could, again, those mysteries, you can't overlook anybody. And if you do, you might end up with that loss. So I think, just we can't overlook anybody. So really, if you made it this far, you got to look out for everybody.
Definitely. I think my dark horse is going to be, and this will be weird because they're the 4 seed. I think Thunder Ridge. I think people are assuming, yeah, Eagle's going to win that first matchup and Thunder will do whatever. And I don't know. Thunder is kind of sneaky to me.
Thunder Ridge is good. They have a great coach too, Keisha. And, they used to be one of those teams that would dominate more, I think is why people, have kind of been like, oh, but, as of late, they were, young, building up their program again because they graduated their huge setter that went to Montana. And she was a huge part of their team for a long time. And so after she left, it was kind of rebuilding. And so I think that's a good pick. I mean, they're younger, but overall, they still have the experience to do it.
Yeah, this is going to be a really fun bracket. I think ultimately it comes down to Madison. And if we're looking at the traditional bracket, Eagle could come through the backside, but I'll say Madison Post Falls is kind of what I'm leaning towards. So,
Okay.
yeah, that's my.
Those are good picks.
And
I don't know. That's so tough. I do pick Madison in the championship, but against who, I'm not sure.
Yeah, it could be anyone. So, and again, I if I'm wrong on my predictions, I love hearing from the fans. So let me know. You can send me an email, Brandon at IdahoSports.com. All
Yeah.
right, let's look at the 4A bracket. This is going to be at speaking of Thunder Ridge, it's going to be at Thunder Ridge High School. So you've got, I mean, Skyview, the 1 seed. Let's talk about Blackfoot, the 8 seed. What a cool story for the Broncos, right, Lynnsie?
They haven't been here in 40 plus years, I think. And,
Yeah.
Blackfoot's always one of those teams that's tough. They hang in there with people, but they never can quite catch the win. They can never quite pull it off. But this year they battled hard in 2 5-set matches to even get to their district championship, where, they faced Bonneville and, they didn't win, but they earned their bid. They earned their bid. And, they have a lot of seniors too. They have their libero who's going to USU Eastern, and she's a good little player. And then they also have, I think it's their middle, but I forget her name, and she's done really well for them this season. Anyways, I feel like they've just been building up for so long too, where they've like couldn't quite get past that finish line until now. And so they've been working towards it, especially those older girls.
Yeah, what a cool story for Blackfoot. They do have to face the best. They have to face
Oh, it's so tough. Oh.
which which Alex is better for Skyview, Alex Bauer or Alex Acevedo?
Oh, well, I don't think you can really compare because they play completely different positions. But as far as ball control, they both have it. As far as grit and effort, they both have it. So I don't think you can really compare those two, just because they play two different positions and they're not looking to change their position either.
Right. Bauer more of a setter, Acevedo more of a hitter.
Yeah.
Both extremely talented for Skyview. All right. The other matchup on that side of the bracket is Twin Falls, the 4 seed, against Bonneville, the 5 seed. This to me is the most intriguing first round matchup. Twin Falls is the defending 4A champs, and Bonneville just has such a strong program every year. But the sneaky thing that I don't think a lot of people know is Bonneville's really young, right? They have some freshmen and sophomores that they're really leaning on this year.
Yes, they do. They have a very talented setter that runs their offense. Watched her play for a couple years. I'm not sure if she's a sophomore or a junior. I'm not sure, just because I think she's been on varsity since she's a freshman, but she is a very, very, very talented setter. And then I know that Twin Falls is a defending champ, but they lost a few of their key players as well, which we saw them play. One of them plays for Slick right now. She plays for Slick, and she's a middle, and she does really well. Anyways, so they lost some. They're young. They're both young, but they're both always powerhouses in volleyball, both of them. We faced Bonneville in the championship many times.
Yes. And I guess I should say it's not all underclassmen for Bonneville, right? They do have, Allie McDaniel is a senior, and Ava Arfman is a great hitter. She's a
Yeah.
junior for
Yes.
Bonneville. But they do also have some sophomores and freshmen that have been making some pretty big plays for Bonneville this year.
Always they need, yeah. And that's
Yeah.
huge. But they've probably been playing volleyball for at least 4 years or so, because Bonneville is that way too.
Yes, very strong club presence, right?
Yes.
Definitely. Okay, top half of the bracket. We've got Canyon Ridge, the 2 seed overall, taking on Century, the 7 seed. Century, I feel like, got penalized because they're only in a 3-team district. They just didn't have as many opportunities. Filling out the schedule was kind of more difficult, right?
Yeah, and I feel like it always is, because besides those couple years when they went to the 10 district thing, that didn't work out. But yeah, so Century's always just been in the 3 district, but I feel like, they do have more losses than I think most of those teams on this bracket. So I feel like, it's kind of earned that way. Yes, they only have 3 teams in their district, but their record does reflect, more losses than those teams.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at Canyon Ridge, for example, the Riverhawks went 16-1 this year. I think their only loss was to Wood River in the regular season, and they look pretty good. And the Century, you're right, is 10-7. But they they had to play all those 5A schools, right? Madison and Thunder and Rigby, and no wonder they have 7 losses.
Good competition for them, right? I mean, you just want to get better any way you can. Yes, I did see Canyon Ridge play Pocatello early in the season. They looked good. Canyon Ridge was first starting while I was still in high school, and yeah, you could tell that they were first starting because they didn't have very many players at all. But yeah, they've really come together, and yeah, they look good.
And scary prospect for opponents of Canyon Ridge. They only have 1 senior on the roster this year, so they're going to bring back almost everybody.
Oh wow! Oh, okay, I didn't know that. So they're younger too. That's cool.
Yes, so that's going to be fascinating to watch Canyon Ridge. For Century, kind of an under the radar player is Addie Butler, I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, so if you're from Pocatello, I would say she's not under the radar, but as Idaho as a whole, I would say yes, I agree totally. She has offers herself, Westminster, USU Eastern, she's doing well. It's been a long time coming for her too. I feel like because it's her senior year now, and it's tough, but she does have quite a few teammates with her that are seniors as well. So they're not a young team, but they are, coming from this volleyball dynasty. I don't know how to. They are under the radar, I would say, as a whole.
Definitely. And then the 3-6 matchup, I have no idea how this is going to go. Columbia, Moscow. I'll admit, I was expecting Lakeland to be in this spot. Lakeland had kind of run the league all year, and then Moscow came down to 1 game, right, at districts, and Moscow got them.
They earned their bid. And yeah, I mean, that's what it all comes down to is districts and then state. So we'll see. Don't overlook anybody. That's just my opinion. But yeah, those mystery matchups too. Those are the ones that will be interesting for me to see because yeah, I don't know about Columbia or Moscow as much. But yeah, I did see that Moscow had lost quite a bit in the season. But when it came to districts, they won when they needed to. So.
Yeah, kind of like a Century thing where they're in a 3-team district and they end up playing Coeur d'Alene twice, Post Falls twice, Lake City twice. So, I mean, they are very battle tested. I actually kind of like Moscow a little bit because of that in this matchup. But
Yeah, that's true.
I think on this bracket, I'm going to go Skyview certainly. And I guess Canyon Ridge, they've had a very impressive regular season. My dark horse team would be Bonneville. I think as a 5 seed, they're underseeded a little bit. Bonneville's better than that, I think. But
I agree. I don't have any disagreements with that. I think it's going to be Skyview and Canyon Ridge. And I think that if Bonneville, all of them come on, they're going to surprise some people.
Definitely. You're so agreeable, Lynnsie. You're the easiest co-host I've ever had. It's
I'm
great.
like, well, that one you made it easy. Trust me, if I have a disagreement, I'm going to say.
Just wait till we get to 1A D2. That's going to be, we're going to be button heads. All right. All right. 3A bracket. This will take place at Hillcrest High School. Number 1 seed is Kimberly. They're going to take on South Fremont, and the Cougars had a nice little postseason run. They went into districts as the 2 seed. Of course, Sugar Salem, the big gauntlet, right? They've been the 3A dominant power for so many years, and South Fremont knocks them off a couple of times at districts to win that bid.
Oh, that was crazy. I saw highlights and bits and pieces of those games, and wow. I mean, yeah, you said it. Sugar has been such a powerhouse, not only in 3A, but I would say all levels for a long time. But yeah, to see South Fremont battle back and to win their district, wow, that was that was pretty amazing for them. And I would say that they are a bit underrated as well, just because of the season record that they held before, because everyone thought that Sugar was just going to take it. But, South Fremont actually has very consistent ball control as well. So,
yes. And so Kimberly is the number 1 overall seed. Their coaches did a great job of emailing me throughout the season, every time they had a match, and here are the stats and here's who performed well. So I can tell you that Eliza Anderson, their outside hitter, she's a senior. She really is the straw that stirs the drink. And then Kelsey Stanger in the middle as well is a pretty awesome force for Kimberly. Those are their 2 main weapons, so to speak.
another Stanger over there. There's a couple
Yes.
of those in the 181, and they're doing well too.
Yeah, at Murtaugh, yes, for
Yes,
sure.
yes. That's what I was like,
Yeah.
that name, I've heard that. Okay.
If you're a Stanger, you're probably going to be pretty good at sports.
But
That's
yeah, volleyball. Yeah, I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, Kimberly looks good. I've only seen a little bit of their highlights as well in Max Preps, but I mean, again, they're number one for a reason. Their record reflects that. They're prepared.
the 3As is tougher to predict because there aren't a lot of 3A versus 3A matches. The East teams will play each other, but otherwise it's all like the 3As will play 2As or the 3As will play up and play 4As. There's not a lot of data where
Yeah.
they're actually playing each other, right?
Yes, that is very true. 3A either plays, 2A or 4A, like you said, and then they do play in a lot of tournaments too.
Yeah.
These guys. Snake River, I've been around them a lot. My mom used to coach for them when I was little. So I've been around Snake River a lot. I still know a couple of girls on that team as well. Reese Baldwin and their little setter is what's it? Is it Zoe Watt? I think. Anyway, so I've watched them play too, and I don't feel like they're quite as consistent as Kimberly, but I think, again, don't overlook anybody. It kind of just who's going to show up? Are we all going to show up, or four of us, or because it's got to take everybody? But
Yes, and you were right. Zoe Watt is,
okay.
and there's Maddie Watt as well, but Zoe is who you were talking about.
Okay.
Yes, and McCall Donnelly is the 5 seed. They must be good. They beat Sugar in the play-in match, right?
I beat them, but I don't know much about them. But again, that's one of those mystery matchups that's like, oh wow, well they beat Sugar, so I mean they must be doing something right. So I don't
Yeah,
know.
McCall Donnelly went 15-5 during
Oh,
the regular season. A lot of wins over Oregon schools, which again is hard to tell. I don't know who's good in Oregon and who isn't.
right.
Um, and then their conference is kind of a larger one, so they ended up having a lot of conference matches this year as well. But Amber Green is their coach. She does a great job with McCall Donnelly. That's the 4-5 matchup. And then up top, you've got more teams from the Boise area, right? Fruitland, the 2 seed, Weiser, the 3 seed. Fruitland, to me, has kind of been, if Kimberly has been 1A this year, Fruitland's been 1B. They've been pretty steady all year.
Oh yeah, and Fruitland is very familiar. I think they're the 2019 state champs, and they've always been up in there. They kind of remind me of kind of like a Rockland team this year. They have very athletic girls from this little tiny town, but they are good. They're good. I pick them to be in the championship. I think they're gonna make it there, and I think Kimberly is as well.
Yeah, Fruitland went undefeated, 15-0. Lexi Barnes is a great setter for them. Ava Dressen. This is a senior-heavy team. They've got 5 seniors that they lean on for Fruitland, and then their girls soccer team was like a juggernaut too. So I'm like, that's awesome that all of the girls athletics at Fruitland are so strong, but. I think it's going to come down to Fruitland and Weiser. Fruitland's playing Buell, the 7 seed. Buell pretty excited to be at state participating. It's been a couple years, I think. And then Weiser playing Bonners Ferry, the 6 seed. You thought a 3-team district was bad. Try a 2-team district. It was just
Yeah. Looking at the bracket, I was like, wait, what? They just keep playing each other over and over and over and over. I was like, what? But they did, I mean, clean sweep across for Bonners Ferry. But looking at their schedule record as well, it's kind of a mixed match. I'm not sure what to think of it. I don't know.
a lot of out-of-state opponents for Bonners Ferry, and like you said, only Timberlake was the only other team, and Timberlake had a very rough season, so hard to tell. Looking at this bracket, I kind of like Fruitland is my pick to win. I'm going to go with Fruitland over Kimberly, and a sneaky team. I could also see Weiser. Weiser played Fruitland early on in the season, and it went all 5 sets, and Fruitland won 3-2. But I think Weiser is also a sneaky team to keep an eye on.
Oh, yeah. This one's tough. I think Fruitland and Kimberly, but after that, I'm not sure. I think that'll be a game to watch. I don't know.
Like Fruitland Weezer, if they play in the semis, whoever wins that or whoever loses that could easily win on the backside of the bracket. I feel like getting
Yeah,
them the other way.
that's true. Well, I guess we'll see. I don't, but I mean, I wouldn't, yeah, overlook anybody. It's just I don't know as much about the others. But again, that's pretty tough to always like, play the number one team overall in it, either for the South Fremont, after they just had that, that big wins over Sugar, but now you got Kimberly. So
Yeah, it'll be interesting for sure. And as crazy and unpredictable as 3A is, I think this might be the most balanced tournament. 2A, there's a lot of good teams in this 2A bracket, right?
these teams are good, and I've seen most of these teams play, except a couple. But yes, I will say Melba is very talented. West Side, Malad, they're both very talented. Ryrie, yeah, wow, those are all very consistent and ball control teams. And then I know Ryrie's coach for club. He always comes to their tournaments. He can't coach them, but he's always there watching them, and they are just building that team chemistry, and they're really good.
I mean, just look at the overall records. Melba 16-0, Malad 12-4, Westside 16-2, Ryrie 16-1, St. Mary's 13-1, Declo 12-5. They're all powerhouses.
Right. And the records reflect that. But yeah, when it comes to state, that's why I'm like, I think they're a little bit more familiar with some of the teams that have been here before. So like Ryrie, Westside, Melba, those guys always kind of are always in it. But as far as the others, I wouldn't overlook because yeah, their records reflect almost the exact same. But yeah, St. Mary's, where is that?
So St. Mary's is up in north central Idaho. It is, yeah, up from the north. That's it. My father-in-law actually is from St. Mary's, so I know all about. They're the Lumberjacks. They're pretty
Oh,
good.
okay.
Yeah.
Just didn't know that one where they were from. But yeah,
Yeah.
West Side play. They're really good too. And it's kind of surprising that they're number 4.
Yes, we will talk about that. Let's start with Melba because I mean, I don't even know who their like star player. I mean, Kendall Clark, obviously great athlete. Hallie Arnold has the size in the middle. There's
They're well-rounded. They're not, to me, they didn't have really standout hitters or anything that I would say that that's their game. I would say that they're pretty well-rounded. They play the serve and pass game really well.
Yeah, and they've got the size. Kendall Clark is 5'11. Hallie Arnold is 5'11. They've got Kaylee Wilson at 5'10. So that height is a big advantage for Melba, right?
Yeah. And I mean, you gotta get to that point first. I think people forget that. I think that's why, looking at teams, you'd be like, oh, they're gonna win. But then it's always comes back to who passes better to start. But that always gives them an advantage at the net.
Were you a setter in your career, Lynnsie?
I was not. So all through my life, I was outside hitter until
Okay.
I played libero. Because yeah, too small.
Okay. I was gonna say that was spoken like a true setter. Oh, it's all about that passing game.
Well, no, and I'm not sure that a setter would say that. I would say that a lot of times, it comes back to, can I better the ball? Can I run this offense even if a pass is bad?
I will say, as a quick aside, my favorite play in volleyball is when the setter does the fake and then the quick dump over for an
Uh,
easy point.
and where everyone's just standing, like they're like,
Yes.
oh.
Right. That is my favorite play in volleyball for sure. Okay. So we like Melba. Declo is no slouch though at number 8 for sure. So that's going to be an interesting matchup. And then this 4-5 West Side and Malad, they've played like 5 billion times.
Yes. And both of them, I feel like, have developed so much. I mean, they both run club teams. They both go to all these team camps that I've seen them at. And, they've really built up these girls that they have. And they have some great athletes at both. And they play each other so much. They're probably like, are you serious? But, I mean, it is what it is. And, the other one can still make their way back. But they're a very close match, too, I would say. But I think Westside will win.
Yeah, they played twice in the regular season, twice at districts. as well. So Malad won both of the matchups in the regular season, and yet we're still ranked below Westside in the max preps, which I was like, how did that work?
Right. Well, and then the records are similar, but then yeah, because West Side won their district championship. So
Yep. And then, yes, Westside won the two matchups at districts. Malad, of course, Cami Tripp, great coach, one of the best coaches. She's really built a nice program. And Westside's got some really good athletes. Abby Fuller is a great hitter. Lainey Beckstead's played really well for them this year as well. I have no idea how this match goes. And I think, again, it's the fifth matchup between these teams. They could meet. They could meet for a sixth time on that backside. It wouldn't surprise me.
yes, they very well could. I mean, they're so tight now, and it's like it's kind of an advantage, but also a disadvantage because then do you change something? Do you not? Just because by now they should know how each other plays. And so when it comes to that point, do we trust ourselves in this rotation enough to pull past them, or do we switch something to throw them off?
Yeah, how often does that happen where you're still making adjustments because you've seen this team so many times?
Well, 5, that's a lot. I would say that doesn't happen often, but I guess in the 3-team districts it does. And so, some coaches' strategy is to, switch players from the outside to the right side or for the blocker for various things. Um, but I don't know, my philosophy doesn't go that way. I would say stick to your game, stick to your strongest points and, work through it that way. You can't worry too much about what other teams are going to do because they're still going to do it. You got to worry about what you do best and keep it that way.
Definitely. The 3-6 matchup on top here, St. Mary's against Nampa Christian. Nampa Christian beat Kellogg in the play-in match. I'll be honest, I expected Kellogg to be occupying that spot. Kellogg's got a pretty good team, so nice job for Nampa Christian though, winning that play-in match.
I think that was, yeah, one of those ones that a lot of people didn't expect. Kellogg had a really good season, and they were really tough in there. That's why when I read that too, I was like, "Oh, I didn't expect that." But yes, that Nampa Christian got their way in, and that's good. I don't know much about them though.
Yeah, they are. They took third in their district, battle tested, obviously, playing with Melba and Cold Valley Christian and
Yeah.
that quality league, and even New Plymouth, was good this year. St. Mary's, a small roster. They don't have much in terms of depth, but their starting unit is pretty good. Tacey Watkins is a senior. She's phenomenal. She's an awesome softball player too, Lynnsie. She's a pitcher, and she'll have these games where she'll have 18 strikeouts in one game and like throw a no-hitter. She does that like regularly in softball. So
Regularly. Wow. This is St. Mary's. What position does she play for volleyball?
so for volleyball, she is listed as a middle. So
Oh, so she's tall or
yeah,
tall.
5'10. Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
cool.
So she's one to keep an eye on if you can
I
sneak
haven't
over.
seen her yet, so yeah, that would be good.
Yeah.
I'll keep my eye out. So she sounds like she's powerful. She's got the power.
Yes, definitely. And then Ryrie up top against Cole Valley Christian. I like Ryrie here. They're so well coached. They just you can mark it down every year. Ryrie at state. Here they are.
Yeah, I mean, they're back again. It's not really it's a thing that they always work hard for. I feel like their girls work so hard. We face them a lot in our club tournaments. So and they're literally called Ryrie Legends. It's literally their school team. But, when you can build that chemistry for that long, they have quite a few older girls this year and they got a good shot.
Yeah, this group of seniors have been playing together for a long time. McKinley Bond and Brianna Scott and Kennedy Anderson and Maddie Andreessen. And so you feel like, the storybook ending would be with Ryrie holding up the first place trophy. They've got just as good a chance as anybody. Their only loss this year came to Westside, 3-0.
Yeah, and I did see parts of that as well, and it was closer than that may seem. It's just, again, when you're playing, those emotional matches, it can flip just like a switch. They played tight in the first match, and then the second match was like, whoa, we didn't have it in us to do to do it again. But, I feel like Ryrie is a experienced team. They're probably going to be in the championship, I think. Oh, but I wouldn't count Melba out. But then there's also West Side. So I'm like, on this one, I'm not sure.
I officially will say I think it's going to be Ryrie and West Side for the championship.
I mean, it's not a bad prediction, but I don't know. I wouldn't count Melba out, but I guess Melba and I bet West Side would play in the semifinal, but then one of them can still come back. So
This is the most wide open tournament. Really, there's like six of the teams I think could all get hot and
in the championship or win.
Yes. Playing late on Saturday. Yes, I think so. So that'll be a fun one for sure. That's at Shelley High School, Friday and Saturday. 1A D1 and D2 are both going to be at Madison, I believe, right? Are they holding that simultaneously?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
They'll just be in, I think they'll be utilizing both of the gyms, but both courts still. So.
Gotcha. Okay. And this is where you'll be at. You'll be at the 1A. So let's start with D1, where Troy is kind of the team to beat, right? Coach Blazard has done a great job with the Trojans up north.
I'm not really sure that anyone can beat them. They are a very consistent team, and that's kind of what it comes down to, is just experience and consistency at this point, right? Because, they've all worked hard, they've all progressed, but at this point, I think it comes back to the experience that this certain team has, because at state, it's very mentally wearing on you. And so those younger players, if any, have a harder time than the older ones, I will say.
And last year, of course, Troy was awesome and won the title. And Morgan Blazard, now at Eastern Washington University, playing in the Big Sky Conference, she graduated, and you're like, okay, this is the year. Troy takes a step back. They only have one senior, and here they are, just dominating again. So, like Canyon Ridge, a team that could be around for a couple years.
They thought that they were rebuilding, sort of, but I mean, they got the experience already from last year, so.
Yes, very good point. Jolie Eklund has been their main driver this year. She's an outside hitter, 5'10" junior, and she's been phenomenal for Troy. The rest of this bracket, so Troy's going to play Grace, the 8 seed. How about Grace? They went into districts as the 2 seed and knocked off Butte County twice to take that bid. And even though they were a district champion, they still had to go to a state play-in match. I hate that. If you win your district, you should be at state, right?
I totally agree with that. When I saw that, I was very surprised. I was like, wait, the winner of the district, no matter what, has to go play someone else to get into state? I was like, oh, that's not fair. They need to change that, because you're right. Every district has one winner, and so they should be able to get in at least. That's why I was like, wait, what? But yes, good on Grace. I hadn't seen them much, but Butte I have seen with Rock when we played them. They're a well-balanced team. They have good athletes. But again, it comes to experience and consistency. And I can see, how Butte wavered a lot. And so Grace pulled through. But that's tough, again, to have to play that play-in game. But they made it. And I think that was one goal.
Yes, definitely. And then you've got Oakley, the 4 seed. I feel like Oakley is seated like a little low in terms of, I think they're better than 4 overall. They're going to play Wallace from up in District 1. It's always hard to tell with Wallace up north, because they don't play anybody. There's no common opponents, right? They're play exclusively north teams. They're kind of a mystery coming down. I will say that tournament was crazy. Genesis Prep was kind of the favorite coming in, and they lost to Lakeside in their like district opener. They didn't even get a chance to play for the championship. It was crazy.
Yeah, I saw that in the brackets, but I don't know. I looked like some of theirs were close, but looking at all these teams besides Troy, they were actually coming closer than I thought. Because Oakley and Murtaugh played in theirs, and then Rimrock, I also thought that they were higher. I don't know.
Yeah, with
higher than number 6.
Right. It's interesting. So I think you had 2 really good leagues, District 2, District 4, and because of that, all those teams got like propelled up because of the strength of the conference. But Genesee got the 2nd seed out of the North along with Troy. I thought Potlatch was going to be the 1 seed. I think they're going to be get that second seed, but good on Genesee to battle through really the top 4 teams in that district this year with Genesee and Logos
Oh,
and
Potlatch.
Troy.
That's the one that didn't make it.
Yes,
Oh
Potlatch.
no. Oh
Yep.
yeah, yeah, they were up there the whole season.
Yep.
Oh.
Only 2 teams got to go, and
Oh
Genesee.
yeah. They pulled through in
Yep.
districts. Okay.
Yep. Yep. So that's what happened up there. And really any of the 4, yeah, obviously Troy, but then Genesee, Logos, Potlatch were all so evenly matched that
Yeah.
good for Genesee to get through. And because they played in such a tough league, they get the number 2 seed overall. Pretty
Okay.
interesting.
Yeah. That
Yep.
makes sense. I mean, it is what it is. Um, yeah, have you seen where's Liberty Charter from?
So they're over in the Boise area. They're just a private school over there, Liberty Charter. They beat Rimrock in the district championship. Both teams had already locked up spots at state, so kind of a low pressure environment. Generally, the teams from District 3 struggle a little bit on the statewide level. So you thought your 9-team conference was huge? There's 11 teams over in District 3 for 1AD1. It's crazy. So
It's a lot. But
yeah.
I mean, they got to do it because those schools are so small, or else it wouldn't work. So
yeah, it's a blend of like the small like communities, like Rimrock, and then it's like the private schools, like Liberty Charter, and yeah, it's a loggerheads over in District 3 for sure. So, but looking at this bracket, I really like Murtaugh and Oakley. They're on opposite sides of the bracket. But Troy is the overwhelming favorite, I think. I guess I'll go with Troy. And I kind of like Oakley, even though they're on the same side of the bracket. I think the Hornets could battle back through and get there. And I think Murtaugh also looks really good.
yeah, that's tough. I mean, Troy for sure is my pick to be in the championship. Probably pull through. But Murtaugh's tough. Oakley's tough. They face each other a lot too. But I don't know. I just wouldn't count anyone else out because they have battled through to get this far. And so I guess we'll see.
Yes. And we were talking about the Stangers earlier. Addison Stanger, Ashley Stanger both play for Murtaugh and both awesome. And Oakley, they've got so many tremendous athletes. Gentry Hawker, Cambry Beck, Chloe Larson. Fallon Bedke at 6 feet tall, might be the tallest player in the tournament. And then Addie Mitten is a personal favorite of mine. She plays basketball for Oakley, so I got to cover her at state basketball last year. She's such a tenacious defender.
What position does she play in
She
volleyball?
she's listed as an outside hitter. She's 5'7".
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, Oakley was pretty well rounded. I got to see them play firsthand. We played them. And Murtaugh too. Uh, yeah, I would say the Stinger girls definitely stood out when we played, as well as their setter. I know their setter is one of their captains for Murtaugh. I can't remember her name, but she plays good offense. And then Oakley, yeah, I mean, you kind of just have to take them out of it on serve receive a bit, but they're pretty well rounded. So,
Yep. Giselle Gill, I think, is the setter for
okay.
Murtaugh. She's a senior. Yep.
Yeah,
So
good job.
yeah, it's going to be interesting, that 1AD1 bracket for sure. And let's wrap up with 1AD2. Here it is. Oh no, not filled in. We I didn't double. I grabbed an old copy of the bracket, I guess. That's all right. We can just talk through it without the bracket. We know that it appears that Rockland and Horseshoe Bend are on this collision course, right?
I mean, it's kind of something that I think a lot of people have told us along the way. You know, we've been sorry, just trying to pull it up so I can see the other teams.
Yes. So Horseshoe Bend is the 1 seed. They're playing Clark Fork, the number 8 seed. Clark
Yes.
Fork has the coolest nickname, the Wampus Cats. I love it.
Yeah, I hadn't heard that until today, actually. Their basketball coach was like, "The Wampus Cats." I was like, "The what?" And he's like, he said it again. I was like, "Oh, that's interesting. Never heard that." But I heard from somebody else that Clark Fork is actually a very interesting, cool little town. It's kind of like there's not much, just like a lot of these little towns, but the community is very vibrant and they're very close, and it's just one of those
Yes.
communities.
Very beautiful scenery up there in North Idaho as well. And Clark Fork is kind of a perennial participant at state from the north. So they're
Yeah,
kind of like a Ryrie, they pretty much plan on being at state every year. So
they keep coming back from their district.
yes, definitely. And Horseshoe Bend, of course. They've got so many tall, long athletes. Annalie Wilson, Meyer is a great player as well. What makes Horseshoe Bend so good?
So I think watching them play again, it always, to me, it comes back to the serve and pass. I feel like a lot of these teams that you'll see, no matter the level, they all have strong hitters within them. But if you can reflect back to how they serve and pass, that's where it's going to be at. That's what's going to win it.
Those fundamentals, especially in a high pressure environment, certainly. And there's not a single senior on this Horseshoe Bend roster.
They're a small roster too. I looked,
Yes.
right. They're very small roster, not small in height, but small in numbers. Right. They only had like 8.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, oh, interesting. But yeah, they've done really well. Their only loss was out of conference from Melba, right?
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
And they lost 3-1, so they put up a win in one of the sets.
Yeah.
Tori Cheetah, also very good libero
For Horseshoe?
for Horseshoe. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
And
Tori
she's
Cheetah.
a junior, right?
Juniors. So they have 6 juniors, 2 sophomores.
Yeah. Okay. I was gonna say, when I looked, most of them were juniors. Okay. Yeah.
Yep. So they're the favorite on that bottom half of the bracket. You also have Mackey, the 4 seed, against Kendrick, the 5 seed. Kendrick went into districts as the number 1 seed, and they got upset right away by the 4 seed, St. John Bosco. And so Kendrick had to battle all the way back through, and they did it. They came back and won districts after losing their first match. How impressive is that?
That's a feat in itself. That's a win in itself, coming all the way back to get it back. And it's a true double, right, for them? So they
Yes.
okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. Kendrick is one that keeps coming back too, though. I do know that. They were the favorite and people thought that they'd be back to state.
Yes, they were expected to be there. And Mackey as the 4 seed, we talked about all these great conferences. I really thought the top 4 teams in the Rocky Mountain Conference with Rockland, Leadore, Grace Lutheran, and Mackey, all pretty, all had chances of getting to state. Mackey is the team that ultimately survives. They beat Leadore on Saturday for 2nd and 3rd place. They've got a new coach, right? Mallory Hawking.
Yes, and she's awesome. She was like, "Oh, you're new." She's like, "I'm new too." But she'd been around it so that she knew that I was new too. Literally, when we walk up to the coaches meeting, she's like, "I've never seen you before." I'm like, "I've never seen you before either." She's like, "Yeah, but I've been around Mackey volleyball." I'm like, oh, "Okay."
So,
Okay.
so what makes Mackey so good?
So Mackey has a great middle in Megan Moore. She has a very powerful swing. They have a great libero. I forgot her name though.
Let me see if I can help you out here.
The last name, I think Allie, maybe Allie Drusel.
Yeah, Allie Drusel. Yep.
Oh, okay. She is great. She's got the serve receive game going. She really helps them out, and she has experience. She's a senior. Well, a lot of them are seniors, right? You got Tiger on the outside. I mean, they're pretty well rounded and experienced. So again, it comes back to that too. I'm going to emphasize that, right? You got some younger players in the mix. It's a little bit for them. They're look at those deer in headlight moments that the older players don't have. So, and Mackey, that's why Mackey has that. They're all older.
Yes. I feel like Megan Moore is one of those players that's played for 7 years because she's she's been a varsity contributor in volleyball and basketball since like day
For a
one.
long time. It's like, wait, how old is she? Yeah. Okay. She's a senior.
Yes, for sure. So, and she's got great height, certainly. Top half of the bracket, the 3-6 matchup is Council and Richfield. Richfield went undefeated in their district in the regular season and then lost to Dietrich, had to battle back through to face Dietrich again, got the win, won the district. Council is really good. They just get overshadowed because they're in the same conference as Horseshoe Bend. Their coach, Paula Tucker, is a really good coach for Council. She used to be at Salmon River. Now she's at Council.
Awesome.
She's a phenomenal coach.
So yeah, Richfield, Dietrich, we've played both of them. Council's the one, again, that's just that mystery, but you know, you can watch film, but it's different when we get there. But I will say, yeah, they've done well, and like you said, they kind of get overshadowed, yeah, because of the conference they're in, and then you know them and Tri Valley kind of battle it out beneath Horseshoe Bend, because Horseshoe Bend's kind of up here. But yeah, I think you know both of those teams, you know, have good moments. It'll come down to who's playing more consistent.
Definitely. Hope Zolman is a great junior for Council. They also have Isabel Epich. She's a senior. And then, you know, I said earlier that the tallest player in the tournament might belong to another team. Michaela Hart, 6'1" for Council as well.
Okay.
So
Okay.
keep an eye out for her at 6'1".
Okay.
Yeah. And Richfield, you said you got to see them play this year?
Yeah, we played them and Dietrich.
Okay.
Played them early in the season. We beat them 3-0, both of them. I will say Richfield has the outside. I'm not sure her name. She's taller too. She does a good job. Their setter does a good job. Again, it's just from my memory. Dietrich's setter is really good as well. You know, they didn't make it, but they're kind of so until this year, I'd never been to either place. And so, you know, they're really far out there, and then it's like Dietrich, and then a little bit farther, and then Richfield, and then they have these big, nice gyms, and they're just in these little places.
Yes, you got to see some of Idaho's best rural communities traveling with Rockland this year, definitely.
Yeah.
And then let's talk about Rockland. They're up top, the number 2 seed. They're playing Deary, the 7 seed. Deary's another team that is kind of a perennial participant at state. They always seem to make it out of the North. Kennedy Kirk is a great player for Deary. But tell us a little bit about Rockland.
Yeah. You know, I have watched these girls for a while now, especially the seniors. You know, we have Taylor and Addie Wilson. Taylor probably leads the district in kills, possibly blocks as well. But then, you know, her serve receive is really on as well. And then Addie's a huge defensive player for us. She played libero for them previously, but we moved her to the outside this year. Just a couple of changes with who we have. We have a really great setter in Callan as well. I mean, that's why it's hard for me to do this. I'm like, I could go on and on about these girls and the things that they've progressed on, but ultimately, you know, for us, again, you know, we're not gonna go in there, you know, worried about any previous polls or previous talk. Focus point by point, game by game.
It's a good way to do it for sure. And Addie and Taylor Wilson they're twins, right?
Yes, they are, but you wouldn't tell if you looked at them.
Yes.
Because Addie is and then Taylor.
Yes.
But both killer athletes. I mean, they do it all. They're like, oh yeah, I got to go run this cross country meet. And then Addie Wilson took first in their district cross country. She's not even going to state because she's come with us.
Volleyball wins for sure.
Yeah, volleyball does win. Well,
yeah.
So her mom is the coach, and Suzanne Wilson, and well, she kind of puts us in charge, but that is their mom, and she's very committed to the sport and committed to Rockland. They all are very tight-knit community out there.
Yes, definitely. Yes, I remember watching the Wilsons at state basketball as sophomores 2 years ago. Rockland was really good, and they both were contributors to that team that got deep at state. So yeah, it does look like it's going to be Rockland, Horseshoe Bend. I'm gonna break your heart here, Lynnsie. I'm leaning Horseshoe Bend just because they've done it before. They've they are the defending champs. They've been there and done it. But I think Rockland has a great chance as well to match up. And Council, I guess, would be my dark horse because they're so talented. I just think they get overshadowed a little bit by Horseshoe Bend. But this is going to be really interesting. I feel like there's 4 or maybe 5 teams that are all really good, really competitive here. So
yes, I mean, of course, my pick is Rockland.
right.
I believe, and but I will. My dark horse is different here. I will. Mackey has a shot. Mackey has a good shot.
Definitely. Yeah. I think Mackey, Kendrick, both could get on runs on that backside of the bracket and do some real damage. So it'll be a lot of fun. And of course, good luck.
Good luck to all the teams, though. Seriously.
Yeah.
I mean, you worked this hard to get to this point, and now's the time to shine.
Yes, and it's going to be nonstop action Friday and Saturday, sun up to sundown in those gyms. We will be updating the brackets and the scores and the schedules all here at IdahoSports.com, so you can stay up to date with all the crazy action that goes on at volleyball. So, yeah. All right. Lynnsie Togiai-Ah Fook, thank you so much for doing this. This was really fun. This went a little longer than I thought, but we got into some good volleyball conversation, which is always time well spent, I think.
Yes, definitely in my book. So
yes, and keep an eye out. Lynnsie is writing a weekly article for us. I love the name you came up with, "Keeping Up with the Kill." That was like, boom! That was a great title. So,
like, well, hopefully it's not too much, but it really is what it is. I mean, that's what it comes down to. I feel like the kill. I mean, for volleyball.
yes,
I'll always remember the kill. So I don't know.
Yes, no, for sure. So yes, Keeping Up with the Kill is Lynnsie's weekly volleyball piece. She started writing for us midway through the season, and we look forward to continuing that next year as well. But state tournament time has arrived. Good luck to all the teams that are competing. And Lynnsie, thank you for hopping on and doing this. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to the IdahoSports.com State Volleyball Tournament Preview Special. We'll be back next week with more action on your respective regional podcasts. Until then, thanks for listening on IdahoSports.com.